Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackGear.com. Today we're going to break down the new Rage Cycles Yamaha R7 Fender Eliminator kit install. Tools required for this install. Right? It's a pretty basic project. We're going to run you through every step here. I use the quarter drive Motion Pro spinner T-handle. Got a short quarter drive ratchet with an 8mm socket. We also used a 10mm quarter drive socket. I used a 10mm quarter-inch drive nut driver, 4mm T-handle, 5mm T-handle, as well as a small flat-bladed screwdriver. This thing looks epic. Let's turn the key on. Let's get the turn signals going. A couple of important points here. We still have the OEM turn signals on the front. We did not install any kind of flasher or resistor, and notice the flash rate is good right out of the box. These guys are using OEM connectors. This stuff is plug and play. It fits great. It looks great. And you can count on it to give you a long service because you're not splicing all these wires together using butt connectors or Scotch locks or anything half-assed like that. Literally plug and play. It's important to note this kit is available in a couple of different configurations. We went with the tucked version because I think it just looks badass, man. I mean, that thing's tucked up in there, way out of the way. Looks very sleek. If you're riding in an area where you're like, man, I'd probably get hassled, you know, if my plate wasn't in a more traditional position, they have that kit available for you as well, then that is probably the best option for you. Watch the install. It looks great. It's not that big of a project. You follow the steps, you're gonna get the same great result we did. Okay, before we dive in, this is a really basic install. We're removing the mirrors and installing the block-off plates. Tools required for this job. Got a 3mm T-handle. Got an 8mm wrench. I have a 10mm socket on a quarter drive ratchet. Okay, let's go ahead and dive right into the install. For the purpose of this video, I went ahead and I put the OEM Fender back on the bike. This thing is gigantic. It's kind of incomplete because the license plate light has been removed, and I think I ended up throwing that in the trash, so we don't have that on there. But nevertheless, this is going to get the point across. It's going to help you with your install. We're going to start by removing the rear passenger seat. Use your key to do that. Undo the lock. Go ahead and put that bad boy to the side. I'm going to use a little flat-bladed screwdriver. We've got a lot of little push pins that we need to release. Push in on the center and pull through like this. This is going to expose the fasteners for the rider seat. Go ahead and pull out like so, and then pull up. This little panel comes off. You can see the hooks that are on it right there. Go ahead and put this over to the side. Got two 5mm internal hex fasteners that are holding on the rider seat. The seat pan itself has a tongue that dips into a bracket. I'll show you that once we pull it off. Start by removing both fasteners. And then we'll grab the seat. Give it a tug and pull it off the bike. You're going to lift up and slide back. Here's the tongue. Here's the hole in the seat pan. They lock together to hold the rider seat in place. Next up, we're going to use that same 5mm T-handle. Internal hex fasteners right here. We're going to pull these off. To facilitate this install, we need to basically disassemble the entire tail of the bike. It probably sounds more daunting than it actually is. We've got 4mm internal hex here, 4mm internal hex back here, Once you pull this one, you can pull this little panel out. This panel slides over the tail light. Fastener locks it in place right there. There's another 4mm right here that helps to join the two halves together. You can see these are all very coarse threaded fasteners. Find another one right over here. Now there are two more on each side that secure this black trim into place. They're right here. One at the rear of the tank, and then one more towards the front. That's going to be a mirror image, side to side. Once you've done that, there's a couple more push pins that secure this piece in place. Got one right here. There is one that is underneath here. To release it, I'm going to push this one from the back side like so. Same thing over here on the left. This one I'll push from underneath, release it. We are now able to go ahead and pull these side panels out. And I'll do this one, and then we'll come over to the other side and I'll show you a little closer. Effectively, there are three Christmas tree clips that engage with these rubber grommets that secure it into place. So I'll come over here, and we'll give you a closer look. So when you remove this, you want to kind of turn it out and down, like so, and get behind there and pull that out, because this lip right here slides behind this bracket, like so. All right, so you can't just pull straight out, you got to kind of rotate it out a little bit. Once you've done that, you can get a 4mm internal hex, come up here. There is a spacer that goes along with this fastener. They're not connected. I don't know why they didn't use like a top hat style there. That would have been a little more efficient, but make sure you do not lose that spacer. You're going to need that. That keeps the fastener from crushing the bodywork piece. So you can kind of see how I'm tipping that when I'm pulling it out. Like so. Once you have those removed, we're going to use a 10mm socket on a T-handle. Motion Pro spinner, this is one of my favorite tools. There's one on either side. Couple more push pins right here. Pull those two out. Now we're going to raise the bike up a little bit and work from underneath. I really need to get one of these tables for my snowmobiles. Total game changer. So underneath here, we have more of the push pins. It's going to be a total of 5 that hold on this panel. 2 on either side, 1 in the center at the rear. This is going to mark our first hard part install with our new camera setup. Hopefully you guys like what you see. If you don't, the guy that you want to complain about is not me. His name would be Lucas. Okay, there's 2 more back here that I forgot to put back in when I put the bike back together. Normally you'd have to remove those to do this. We don't have to now because why I didn't put them back in is what it is. Once you have all the fasteners out that I've just shown you, what you want to do is you want to grab this panel, right, and pull outward. There are 2 Christmas tree clips that go into grommets. Show you where those are at. Here and here. One at the front, one at the rear. You're going to leave the blue and the black piece bolted together. Actually, I guess I could have left that fastener in there. That's my fault. Come over to the other side. Same thing. Pop this out. When I put this together, I'm probably even going to put all the clips back in it. There you have it. Tail section disassembled. What are we going to do next? Next, we're going to unplug. No, next we're going to have a little bit of C4. This stuff is amazing. It makes your face tingle. This is now my new favorite energy drink. Lucas wants to pan back there. It's very clear. I have a problem. You have to get the bag underneath too. I have 2 problems. One, I probably consume too many energy drinks. The other problem is I'm really bad at taking cans back. I've got cans everywhere. I usually end up throwing them out, and that's horrible. It feels very wasteful, but welcome to how it is. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get this thing ready to be removed. You want to come on up here, Lucas? Here is the bike's ECU. I want to kind of put your finger underneath it and pull up. There are 2 tabs in the under tray that slide into this rubber mount, okay? You want to release that. We've got a little harness clip back here that we need to disengage. The access to this is a little tight. I'm going to get the screwdriver behind one side, and then I'm going to use my fingernail on the other side. I'll try and give you a closer look at that once we unplug this stuff and pull it out to show you how we disengage that. Pretty impressed that I could do that without my glasses on. There's 1 turn signal connector. You would normally be disconnecting this one as well. This is going to be for the license plate light, which we no longer have. It was eliminated when we did the other Fender Eliminator. I cut that harness apart and used it on that Yosh Fender Eliminator. Turn signal wires are kind of fed through that under tray like so. You want to make sure that those are all free. Now we can raise the bike back up and we'll remove the fasteners that hold the OEM fender to the bike. Right here, there's 2 on either side. These are going to be reused. $8mm hex head. These come from the factory with thread locker on it. You can see that. Want to make sure you support the OEM fender as you remove that last fastener, and then carefully pull the connectors and the harness through, and there you have it. Ugly OEM fender has been removed. Next up, we'll be installing the new Rage tucked rear fender eliminator. Okay, here we go. Let's dive right into the install. The packaging, right, is as good as the product, actually. This is how the Fender Eliminator is going to come. There's our mounting bracket. We got the tucked version. There's a couple of different versions available for the R7. I thought the one where the plate was most tucked looked the best. That's going to be, up to you. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you like the other style better, the install is going to be pretty much the same. Just go ahead and order that. License plate mount. Here are those kick-ass LED turn signals, right? Great job with the wiring harness. Absolutely fantastic. Plug and play. There are no instructions included in the box. The only mounting hardware that it's going to come with are going to be these two internal hex fasteners here, as well as your license plate bolts here, right, that come already attached. Go ahead and put the box to the side, and we'll dive in to our install. We're going to reuse the 4 8mm hex head fasteners right here. Those started by hand, and then we'll grab that 1/4-inch ratchet and get them all run down. Alrighty, got those all pretty much seated. Just going to apply just a little bit of torque here so all 4 fasteners are fully seated. Now we'll go through and apply final torque. These are small, they don't need a lot of torque, plus they have thread locker on them. So you can see that very minimal torque on that. There's no reason to go crazy on that fastener. Next up, we're going to go ahead and get these into position, right? We need to get the wiring harness up in place before we start to put the bodywork and stuff back on, okay? So let's go ahead and we're going to begin by feeding the turn signals through. Pass them both right through the hole, hopefully. Kind of got caught there. Like so. Let that rest there, and then we're going to come in with the license plate light, like so. All this kind of rest right here. I'm going to lower the bike down. Go ahead and plug in the LED license plate light, and then we have our turn signals. We want to make sure that we obviously have the correct side let's go ahead and we'll start this off with the one that's the easiest to reach. Key up. Okay, so that is not, it's the right side it looks like. Okay, so we definitely have those crossed right now. You want to check that before you button everything up, right? You want to make sure that you have the right signal plugged into the right connector. Now is the time to verify that. So it's a little bit tucked in there. Plug in the other one. Okay. What is pretty cool too is notice we didn't install any resistors or anything, and the flash rate is already normal, right? Which is really what you want to see. So now let's go ahead and take the time and kind of route these connectors. They tuck in real nicely back here. Get harness underneath that tab, like so. I wanted to give you a closer look at this. Let me see if I can get it to slide out real quick. Okay. This is the retainer that held that harness into place, so when I released it, I reached in there with a screwdriver, right, to pry those apart, and then here I pulled out, right? You need to move these in opposing directions to get that to release and open up. You want to try and preserve that so you can reuse it because it does a nice job of securing the harness. Back here at the back of the bike, let's go ahead and feed our turn signals, tail light, and of course license plate light connectors all through that. And then any excess that's back here, we'll simply just kind of, you'll just tidy it up a little bit. There's a little pass through right here. There's a notch cut in the undertail tray. I want to push the harnesses all through that. Let's go ahead and get them all through this retainer. Snap that in place. Good to go. We'll go ahead and fold the ECU back over now. Make sure the tab goes in the slot. Like so. Okay, now we're just going to let that dangle for a minute. We'll grab the sides of our tail section. Go ahead and slide those back into position. Find your Christmas tree clips. Find your rubber grommets that are located on the bike. Okay, one back there, one right there. Get those bad boys lined up. Give it a good push. It engages, that's going to hold it in place. Same thing over here on the other side. Like so. Make sure this tab is over top of that. And we're ready to drop a couple of fasteners in here now. There's a couple of different directions you could go from here. And put these in. Pay attention to your spacers, make sure those are still going to be there. Once they're all seated, go ahead and torque them down. Grab a little, one of the short little coarse threaded fasteners. That's going to go right back here where you join the two halves, like so. The two 10mm hex head fasteners go right here. Got a T-handle here that we used for removal. Want to make sure you're not pinching the bodywork between the bracket and the spacer that is built into that top head nut. If you do, you could crack it, so you definitely don't want to do that. We'll get a couple of these push pins here. Those bad boys can go in there right now. That is done. A couple of the short coarse head fasteners, coarse thread fasteners, I'm sorry. These are the two that I pulled out that I didn't need to pull out. All right, let's go ahead and put those back in. All right, there's that little closeout panel right over the tail light here. What you want to do is you want to make sure this tongue engages in here. So kind of just dip it in, right, like so. You can kind of feel that it's in place. Minimal torque on that. Go ahead and raise the bike up. We'll get that Fender Eliminator bolted up now. Okay, bike is back up in the air. We've got that little closeout panel here for the underside of our tail. There are a couple of tabs that need to slide in like so, right? You kind of see how they engage there. Push that up into position. There are going to be 5 total retainers. Push pin clips that hold that into position. And look at how clean that all starts to look, right? Looks great. I'm even going to put these back here in the tail light this time. Okay, closeout panel is in place. We even have the pins back in the tail light back there at the back. Now, before you go any further, what I want you to do is I want you to put your license plate on the bracket. If you don't do this now, you basically won't be able to do it later. I don't have an actual plate, just have this piece of plastic with an STG sticker on it now. That's what we got. That's what we're running with. There is some adjustability to this plate bracket, right, to accommodate slightly different spacing, different plates. As you can see, we're going to need that to accommodate what we've got going on here. So make sure everything is loose. The way this is set up, you really wouldn't be able to do this if you already have it mounted up to the bike. So you want to kind of make sure you get this done beforehand. Kind of looking back here to make sure we're spacing things evenly. You're going to use a 4mm T-handle or Allen. That's a 10mm nut. It's got a lock washer fixed on the back. That's just a piece of plastic, so I'm not going to put a bunch of torque on it. Now we're ready to slide this thing into position. what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the turn signal mount overlap the plate mount. Let's go ahead and get that harness all slid up in there. As previously noted, there are two different style plate brackets. The one that I chose for this install was the tucked version. And it was funny because Lucas is like, is that legal? Well, this is going to depend on the area that you ride in, right? Everybody, the enforcement it's just different, right? And probably what's going to have a lot to do with it is the way you're riding your bike. If you're out doing a bunch of wheelies and you're out going really fast and weaving in and out of traffic all the time, you know, you don't want to give them another reason to pull you over. So you do what you think is appropriate for you, you know, and also appropriate for the area that you're riding in, because every place is different. One thing I would probably do, if this were a permanent install, and you guys already know for us this is not, because the bike will actually never be ridden with this on it, I would put a little bit of Loctite on those two fasteners, because you know what, you've got that installed on there personally or permanently, you're out there riding around, things sometimes can work their way loose, and next thing you know, you've got this all dangling under here. That would not be great. So a little bit of blue thread locker under there would probably go a long way. You can see that is tucked. Let's lower this thing down. Let's get the rest of the pieces on. Okay, now let's go ahead and install these plastic side panels. This is the portion that needs to dip behind this bracket. You got one push pin back there, one up here, one here. They're all going to go into these rubber grommets that you see right there. So kind of slide this bad boy into position, right? Kind of let that dip in there. Find one of those pins. And the most important one is going to be the one right back here at the rear. You want to get that one dipped in like so, and then come up to the front, get the second one to engage, the forwardmost one. Make sure this is going over the bracket and kind of push in. And rotate up like so. Okay? It's probably easier than I just made it look. Come over to the other side. We're going to do the exact same thing. Find that one, get it started, second one, third one. Make sure the bracket goes over the top like so. Let's grab these 4mm internal hex coarse thread fasteners. Engage right here with the tank. There's a little pin that locates that. You want to make sure that you have that all lined up. That is a really thin metal J-nut, right, that these coarse fasteners are threading into. You do not want to go bananas on these. You go bananas on these, you're just going to destroy that J-nut. And then off to the hardware store you will go in search of all right. These two panels are installed. I'm going to grab these two fasteners here. 4mm internal hex top hats. Like so. Oh, my bad, those are 5s. Those are 5s. Okay. Now we've got a little panel that goes back here. Let's see if we can find where I put it. There it is. Let's go ahead and put that one over to the side. You want to make sure you have these two clips in here before you get ready to do your seat. Got clips back here. Underneath. One more over here on the other side. Okay, let's go ahead and put the rider seat on. You want to make sure the tongue on the bracket engages with the slot in front of the seat pan. You'll know when it slides forward, kind of pick up on it a little bit. Make sure that it's fully engaged. Got our 5mm internal hex fasteners back here. Let's get them both started. We'll get them both seated, and then we will torque them both down. Okay, now is your last chance to just take a quick little look back here. And you can see the harness, you know, it's all up in there really nice. Looks good. You know, if you feel the need to maybe add a cable tie, you could do that. They didn't supply one. Realistically, there's no need to do that. That can all just chill out back there. There's a protective covering on it. Not going to have any chafing or any issues. Slide this panel down in. Make sure the tab's engaged down there. Got to distort it just a little bit at the top to get it to jump under. Snap, snap. Passenger seat. I want to make sure this tongue goes underneath that bracket. Give it a little push. Now we can marvel at our work. Man, does that look good. Turn our key on. Make sure our plate light is illuminated, which it is. Left turn signal. Notice the flash rate is good. We didn't have to install any resistors, do anything any different. There is our right turn signal. All in all, what do I think? I'm a big fan of the new Rage stuff. We've installed it on the last several project bikes. I think it looks great. Right out of New York. Guys do a great job with design and manufacturing, right? On the R7, we're doing a complete new Rage upgrade. We're doing the mirror block-offs, full video for that, of course. The tucked rear fender, I already said this before, there's another one that has the plate sitting in a more traditional position, right? So if you think this, you could get hassled with this one in your area, just order the other one up. It looks very, very similar, same turn signals, just has the plate in a more visible position, which may be more appropriate for you if you know you have an area where there's going to be issues. If you have any questions, leave those in the comment section of this video. I answer all that stuff myself. I'm always here to make sure you get the same result from your project we did ours.